Cowboys urged to cut ties with $40 million star at trade deadline. How will the Dallas Cowboys handle the upcoming National Football League trade deadline? Dallas has just a few weeks to make decisions. The trade deadline is set to pass on November 5th, and the Cowboys are a team that will be watched closely. Dallas certainly isn't in the position it hoped to be in right now. The Cowboys currently are in third place in the NFC East with a 3-3 record. If the Cowboys struggle over the next few weeks, could they decide to trade some high-priced veterans? It certainly doesn't seem likely. The Cowboys don't seem like a team that is going to wave the white flag no matter what happens. While this is the case, Fox16.com's Kobe Skillern put together a list of players the Cowboys should consider trading and had four-time Pro Bowler DeMarcus Lawrence in his top spot. DeMarcus Lawrence is in the final year of his contract, and with the Cowboys facing cap constraints, it's unlikely they'll be able to re-sign him in the offseason, Skillern said. If the Cowboys fall out of playoff contention, Lawrence would be an ideal trade candidate for teams looking to bolster their pass rush. The Detroit Lions, especially after Aiden Hutchinson's recent injury, would be a perfect landing spot. As contenders, adding a veteran like Lawrence could be the move that pushes the Lions over the top. It would be somewhat surprising if the Cowboys were to trade Lawrence, although he is in the final year of his 3-year, $40 million deal. Dallas certainly could earn a playoff spot this year despite a tough start. It does make sense for the team to consider a deal like this, but it just doesn't seem like the Cowboys will sell in any capacity ahead of the deadline unless something major happens. The McCarthy Chronicles. His seat is becoming hotter and hotter. The Cowboys are in a dark place right now. They were there even before Jerry Jones threatened to have local radio hosts fired for asking him tough questions on Tuesday. And while Jones has been emphatic, perhaps too much, in his insistence that he's not firing Mike McCarthy, the notion has to be at least discussed. For the last 5 years, these weekly McCarthy Chronicles have largely praised the work that the Super Bowl-winning coach has done in Dallas. The 2020 season threw a lot of curveballs his way, but McCarthy managed to instill a new culture in the locker room and end on a high note, with his Andy Dalton-led Cowboys winning 3 of their last 4. Since then, he's won 12 games each year coming into this season, something no head coach has done in Dallas. The level of consistency is unprecedented in the Jerry Jones era for this franchise, at least in terms of a single coach's tenure. And last year, McCarthy took control of the offense and improved the unit in every way. Dallas finished the year 5th in yards per game, 1st in points per game, 9th in offensive DVOA, and 2nd in EPA/play. Dak Prescott was the MVP runner-up for his efforts too, putting up a career year. In many respects, it felt like the McCarthy era was really just getting started. The longtime offensive play caller was finally doing what he loves most, and the Cowboys were thriving as a result. Then came the wild card playoff loss. Ever since last year concluded, things have felt off in Dallas. Start with the fact that Jones refused to extend McCarthy's contract, opting for an unusual tactic of letting his coach go into the final year of his deal. Then, the front office dragged their feet even longer than usual in getting extensions done for Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Plenty of other decisions led to the 2024 season kicking off with arguably the least anticipation among fans in a decade. Then the season began, and things felt even worse. The team is 3-3 and has yet to win at home. In fact, they've been blown out in all 3 home games, with a spirited fourth-quarter performance against the Ravens putting some low-budget lipstick on a pig for them. The defense has not been great, though it's hard to find much fault with a unit that was forced to start 4 backups this past week and had 8 backups playing 25% or more of the snaps Sunday. The offense is the bigger issue, seeing as how they're mostly healthy. Things have regressed sharply from last year, as McCarthy's offense currently ranks 14th in yards per game, 19th in points per game, 25th in offensive DVOA, and 25th in EPA/play. Another crucial statistic is drive success rate, which measures how often an offense's down series results in either a first down or touchdown. Last year, the Cowboys tied the 49ers for the best mark in the league at 78%. So far this year, it's dropped down to 69%, which ranks 19th in the NFL. The offense is struggling, that's putting it politely, and the team cannot get up for home games. A year ago, they were undefeated in the regular season at home, and they were 21-4 in AT&T Stadium from 2021 to 2023. Defending their home turf had become a point of emphasis under McCarthy, but now the team plays its worst football in front of the home crowd. So what's going on? What solutions does McCarthy have heading into the bye? Last year saw the team enter their bye week feeling similarly disjointed, and they emerge from the week of rest to win 6 of their next 7 and secure the NFC East title. Can McCarthy pull another rabbit out of his hat? Supposedly, he's asking his players to take a long look in the mirror this week in an effort to rediscover their identity. Still, these are not problems that the team should be dealing with in year 5 of the McCarthy era. The culture should be well established, the offense should be capable of at least competing in shootouts, and there shouldn't be so many miscommunications between your star quarterback and star receiver. There are plenty of cracks forming in the glass of this team right now, and the pressure in Dallas never lets up. McCarthy will get the chance to course correct, and he'll need that to happen right away. Jones was adamant that he's not going to fire McCarthy, but he also knows he won't need to. If the former Packers coach can't figure things out, his contract will merely expire, just as his predecessor in Dallas had happened. And if the cracks that are now forming turn into shattered glass, it will be very hard not to endorse the idea of pulling the plug on this coaching staff. Too many things have gone wrong since that wild card playoff game against McCarthy's former team to stomach more of the same. There's little guarantee that another coach can bring the change necessary in Dallas, but McCarthy has the credentials to figure things out before then. And if he can't, then why is he even here? For players, the Dallas Cowboys need to put on the trade block. The Dallas Cowboys have just 2 games remaining against the San Francisco 49ers and Atlanta Falcons before the NFL trade deadline on November 5th. If the Dallas Cowboys find themselves at 3-5, they should seriously consider trading some key players to retool for the future. Here are a few players the Cowboys must consider moving. 4. Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks' value has diminished given his recent performances and age, but the Cowboys could still trade him for a 6th or 7th round pick. Cooks doesn't appear to factor into the Cowboys' long-term plans, and moving him would open the door to evaluate younger receivers like Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, and Ryan Flournoy. This would be the perfect opportunity to see what the team has in its developing talent while gaining a draft asset in return. 3. Luke Schoonmaker. The Cowboys typically don't like to give up on their draft picks, but there's little need for Luke Schoonmaker given the current roster. Unless the team decides to move on from Jake Ferguson, they wouldn't really miss Schoonmaker. As a former second-round pick with promising talent, he could be an ideal candidate to place on the trade block. Schoonmaker holds value, but it's value that the Cowboys don't necessarily need right now, making him a potential asset in a trade for draft picks or more immediate needs. 2. Trey Lance. The Cowboys' plans for Trey Lance became clear when they decided to extend Dak Prescott. This makes Lance an appealing, low-cost trade target for teams in need of quarterback help, such as the Miami Dolphins, Las Vegas Raiders, and Tennessee Titans. The Dolphins could use Lance to stay in playoff contention while Tua Tagovailoa recovers from his concussion. The Raiders, whose quarterbacks were outplayed by Lance in the preseason, could see him as an upgrade. Meanwhile, the Titans are desperately searching for a young quarterback to lead their offense, and Lance could fit the bill. 1. DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence is in the final year of his contract, and with the Cowboys facing cap constraints, it's unlikely they'll be able to re-sign him in the offseason. If the Cowboys fall out of playoff contention, Lawrence would be an ideal trade candidate for teams looking to bolster their pass rush. The Detroit Lions, especially after Aiden Hutchinson's recent injury, would be a perfect landing spot. As contenders, adding a veteran like Lawrence could be the move that pushes the Lions over the top.